Chapter 19. Engage. Sana left the dinner table feeling like a wrung-out dish towel. A throbbing ache had taken up residence in her shoulders and temples, and every muscle in her arms and legs had started to stiffen up. Most concerningly, her heart twinged with every beat. Not enough to be painful, but it was impossible not to be aware that her ticker wasn't talking the way it should have been. If it wasn't better in the morning, she'd let her mom know. They'd get an EKG done somehow. She wasn't tired or hurting enough to lay down again. That said, she was in too much pain to make use of her workshop or the training mats. With little inspiration and less motivation to do anything, she dropped back onto the couch, gave Bread time to get comfy in her lap, sent a text to Lisa to let her know about the ungrounding, and checked her email. The nameless, subjectless bar at the top of her queue caught her attention right away. Curiosity gripped her, and she opened it without a second thought. It was a simple message.
Hello, host. I am aware that by now you have received my gift. The contents are yours to do with as you wish. Rest assured, I have no ill intentions towards you. If anything, you should consider me your staunchest ally. If you wish to communicate further, you may reply to this email or come find me. Your nanobots will guide you. Your friend, the programmer.
The message blurred the more she read, and her chest started to burn. She realized she was breathing sharp and shallow, but couldn't get her lungs to cooperate. Panic was turning everything hazy. Another message appeared, appended to the bottom of the first.
Dear host, while correspondence from a stranger is cause for alarm, please take care not to hyperventilate. Your health is of my utmost concern. Calm down, the programmer.
Not helpful! She wheezed in distress and curled more tightly around Bread, who murmured and bunted his head into her chin. The contact helped, and she petted him along the spine in long, even strokes until the worst was over. Bread was a good sport, and he settled down when she stretched back out. God, she loved him. It took a minute for her voice to start working again. How were you watching me? It came out as a plea instead of the demand she'd wanted. Crap, showing weakness was bad. Knowing she was scared meant he knew he had power over her. Who knew what someone like this would do with that? Reassure her, apparently, or try to.
Dear host, I gained access to your phone and computer cameras approximately 8.31 seconds after you became the host and therefore my responsibility. I have since reinforced the firewalls on both devices and those of the individuals closest to you so no one else would be able to do the same. Unapologetically, the programmer.
The reassurance did not succeed. Sana resisted the urge to throw her phone across the room. Should she call the cops? No, she couldn't explain any of this to the cops without outing herself. The cons of needing anonymity. Why? What do you get out of this? How do I know you're not going to release my secret identity to the cops, or blackmail me, or hurt my parents, or...
Dear host, you have no reason to trust me. I am conscious of this fact. It is one of the reasons I have not contacted you before now. As things stand, I must ask that you refrain from making a rash decision out of fear that I will harm you. I will not. My services belong to the host, no matter who they may be, and I cannot take an action that would bring the host to harm. Even if that were not the case, you are a teenager. The previous host left me with explicit instructions stating that I am not allowed to bring harm to minors. Yours, the programmer.
It was the last line that eased her reservations a bit. Being singled out was one thing. Having the general protection given to Calabrian kids was another. Curiosity gained a bit more of a foothold in its war against caution. Why the care package? Why now? How much information could she wring out of him before he cut her off or she needed backup? How honest was he going to be? Was he even trustworthy? It was like a game. If she thought of it that way, maybe she wouldn't be so scared.
Dear host, you are beginning a career that requires funding and equipment, both of which I can provide. The alternatives would see you fighting opponents you would be incapable of handling, and, as I have mentioned, your health is of my utmost concern. Yours, the programmer.
Great. Fantastic. Explain the money and the suit. And the glass? You can quit it with the dear host and programmer stuff, by the way.
Very well. I found it prudent to support your interests beyond vigilantism. It's an unhealthy activity by nature, and I'd prefer you balance it out with something better for your mental state.
Okay, that sort of made sense, in a way that was far too terrifying to think about for long. Would you have stayed hidden if I hadn't done this?
Likely, yes. As it stood, you were well above suspicion. Hiding separately decreased the odds that either of us would be discovered. The Prince's vendetta and your response changed the conditions enough that revealing myself became more advantageous than letting you operate in ignorance.
It all ties back to Prince Snow, doesn't it?
Yes. Do you want me to kill him?
No, no, absolutely not. No killing! Why was that his first solution? What kind of madman was this programmer? There is something seriously wrong with you.
I will refrain from committing homicide if that's what you want.
Yes, it is! Obviously.
Very well. Are you intending to kill him yourself? I cannot recommend it.
Huh. That was unexpected, and it took the wind right out of Sana's sails. She'd thought someone who offered to murder so calmly wouldn't have had a problem with her doing it instead. She raised an eyebrow. Can I ask why?
There's too much mercy in you. A murder would break you at this stage, host, especially a planned or cold-blooded one. In time, you may grow to be capable of rationalizing the need to make a kill, but you aren't there yet. That's all right. You're still new.
You say that like it's an inevitability. It was sickening to contemplate. The memory of Lord Static's blood on her hands haunted her nightmares even months later, and she hadn't been his murderer. She couldn't imagine making the choice to take a life.
It tends to be for heroes. Perhaps you will be an exception. You will have to be very careful and exceedingly clever, mind. More so than if you were willing to employ lethal force.
I'm willing to put in the extra effort.
Whatever choice you make, I will support you.
He didn't seem to have much of a backbone when it came to her decisions. At the same time, you're the scariest person I've ever met.
You haven't met me yet. Come find me. I will do whatever you ask until then.
Yeah, that's why. She bit her lip and thought for a moment. You control Lord Static's finances, right? Can you return the money he stole? Start undoing the harm he did?
I could return the original sums without causing you undue financial distress. I am an excellent investor. Your funds should recover within a few weeks.
Her eyes nearly bugged out of her head. Lord Static had stolen a lot of money over the course of his criminal career. Do I want to know how much money you have? No wonder Prince Snow hated her if her existence had robbed him of this on top of the pots.
Me? Very little. I am simply the executor of the late Lord's will. You, on the other hand, are the heir of all of the deceased's assets, and he was extremely wealthy, especially once I started managing his portfolio.
There were so many things wrong with what he'd just said. Typed? Sent. Sana scratched bread behind an ear as she thought of a response that wasn't 20 questions piled atop one another. Bread purred and leaned into the scritches. At least he was cozy. God knew he was the only thing keeping her from screaming right now. She waited long enough for another email to arrive.
I will not inform you of the exact value of your current funds. Doing so will likely tip you into another panic attack, even though you have just put a significant dent in the total sum. You do not need to know in any case. I will handle most of your finances for now. The older you get, the more leeway I will give you with your assets. That said, anything you may wish to purchase for your health, happiness, or comfort is currently well within your grasp.
A detail from a few emails back caught her eye. I'm sorry, back up. You said you can re-earn tens of millions of dollars in a few weeks. Are you a super? Why are you working for Lord Static, or I guess me, if you can do that? And why give me control of that money?
I can, in a way. The principal belongs to you as the host, so the interest is yours as well. It's that simple.
It's really not.
It is. Your denial is understandable. The shift in your circumstances is difficult to process, I'm sure. You will adjust well enough, but it will take time. There's no need to push yourself in this regard.
How considerate? He was so confident that she would adapt. Why? There was an uncomfortable twisting in her gut. One question popped up above all the others clamoring for her attention. What do you want from me?
I don't understand the question. I want you to stay happy and healthy, but that's not what you're asking.
How to put this? You say I'm your responsibility, but you're mine too, aren't you? What can I do to take care of you? If nothing else, she could keep him from fulfilling his needs with crime.
I suppose that's a way to look at our association. I am self sufficient. You do not have to provide for me. I am yours regardless. If you wish to do something, come find me.
He was hers. What the hell? Why are you so loyal? You don't know me.
You are the host. Come find me.
Where are you? How do I find you?
Your bots will guide you. Come find me.
No GPS coordinates? Map? Picture?
No. Come find me.
All right, I'll find you. Sana, who are you talking to? Her dad called from the kitchen. And just like that, the thread vanished as though it had never existed, replaced by an email about an appointment with some lawyer and a document template. Hey! Her dad poked his head into the room. Sana, why are you yelling at your email? Because the guy who sent me that package set up a video call with Tobias Exter, superhero legal counseling for Swarm. The meeting's tomorrow. His response came from a multitude of foreign languages and was unprintable in all of them. His hand movements were equally vitriolic. Sana shared the sentiment, even if she lacked the vocabulary. Are you willing to translate that? No. Aww. Are you going to accept? Naturally. While the sender is suspicious as all get out, the lawyer looks legit. You and Mom might want to stay out of my room while the meeting's going on, though. I don't know how far lawyer super confidentiality goes, and I'm not willing to risk you two on it. And you? She grinned, all teeth. I have a voice modifier and a supersuit, assuming the latter fits. And given what she'd seen of the programmer's character, she would be shocked if it didn't. When she tried on the suit the next morning, it fit like a dream. Of course. Thick plating covered all of her long bones, and Kevlar protected her joints. Thinner interlocking plates moved like a second skin everywhere the hardier stuff would have impeded her mobility, with special attention paid to her back and abdomen. The scales even altered the shape of her waist and hips. As for her bust, the suit had a built-in sports bra that compressed her already unimpressive chest, and the outer side of the plating mimicked pecs shockingly well. It was mostly black, but her symbol rested over her heart, and the arms and legs each had a line of arrow-like red designs pointing to her hands and feet on their outer sides. The ensemble lacked shoes, but came with red gloves and a red utility belt with a smaller copy of her symbol on the buckle. The mask was the most interesting piece. It was made of 2 layers. The underlayer consisted of a helmet-like ensemble that hinged in the back. It was thick and tight around her skull, temples, forehead, cheeks, nose, and jaw. There was a hole around her mouth that fit perfectly around some sort of air filter contraption, and the eye holes fit a pair of red goggles rimmed with white. The overlayer was a simple black fabric piece with eye holes cut out for the goggles. Despite the complexity of the design, she could slip the whole outfit on in a minute. She knew practice would cut down on that time. She'd borrowed her mom's full-length mirror to see what she looked like in the get-up. It wasn't an exaggeration to say she didn't recognize herself. You look like a man, her mom said bluntly. She wasn't wrong. Sana never had an especially feminine body and wasn't on track to develop one, but with the way the armor shaped her torso and the mask shaped her face, anyone looking at her would immediately ping her as a guy. Not that they hadn't done so already, but that was more a product of the voice modifier. This took that to a whole new level. Well, Sana said, twisting this way and that to test her range of motion, nobody will suspect me once they get a look at this. Might be better, honestly. You're okay with getting your gender mistaken? Her mom asked. Sana thought for a second. Yeah, Swarm's an alter ego anyway. It's like dressing for a part in a play. Harmless. Kind of fun. She popped up onto her toes, then rocked back on her heels. I can make Swarm whatever I want, and nobody will look at Sana twice, no matter how similar we end up. Besides, Prince Snow and the news cycle already think I'm male. If I had a problem with it, I'd have said something before now. It was brilliant, honestly. While her baggy clothes had left her body shape ambiguous and the voice provided by the choker had solidified public perception, the suit left no doubts that Swarm had a masculine build. She would still be short, nothing to be done about that, but if she gave Swarm a big enough personality, that should make up for it. A knock on the door, an invitation from her mom, heralded the arrival of her father. Looks good, he said, once he got an eyeful of the suit. Are you going to leave the bots loose? She hummed in consideration, then twirled. The bots that had been flying free settled on her shoulders and down her back in an ankle-length black cloak. She swished it back and forth. This! Absolutely not. No capes. The shutdown from her father was immediate and utter. It's made of nanotech. Literally the first thing I'm going to do in any dangerous situation is disintegrate the thing. Let me have this. Do you know how many supers have strangled themselves with their own capes? Nope, but it's a cloak, not a cape, and it's a part of my body. Hell, it's better than the body I was born with in terms of safety. I can't damage the nanobots the way I can stub my toe. Not that she'd hurt herself that way since her awareness of her body had been enhanced, but semantics. In response, he ground for her hood and tried to pull it over her face. The millisecond his fingers touched the faux fabric, it fell apart. His hand passed through harmlessly, and Sana grabbed his wrist before he could regroup. Gotcha. See? Totally safe. The disapproval did not wane, but he dropped the argument when she let him go. Is that the aesthetic you're going with? I can't exactly put in a work order for a new suit, so yeah. Is something wrong with it? She reformed the hood and tapped her chest. The symbol over the heart does kind of scream, shoot me here, but considering it's on the bulletproof plating, it should be okay. Not what I mean. He shook his head fondly, saying, What am I going to do with this girl? As clearly as if he'd opened his mouth. You look like a supervillain, sweetheart. Oh, really? She looked down at her gloves and flipped her hands over, trying to see what her dad saw. The red and black is a bit intimidating. Think blue would have worked better? Maybe, maybe not. The mask and plating don't make you seem trustworthy. Can't do anything about that. Need them for my secret identity and personal safety. And Prince Snow looks like a superhero, so the contrast might work until I'm established. The next thing she wanted to say had the potential to sound bad, so she hummed for a second and got her thoughts in order. It's like the S name, an acknowledgement of where the tech came from without any support for the late Lord's actions. Is that wise? Her mom asked. She shrugged. In reality, it was likely the programmer had been working off of Lord Static's preferences when designing the suit, but she didn't want to say that. Something in her gut was screaming that telling her parents more about the programmer than they already knew was a terrible idea. She was inclined to listen, for the moment. He had enough decency to keep me alive and let me take the tech instead of letting me get mauled to death and the tech destroyed. I don't owe him anything or want to emulate him. He was a terrible person, and I know he was acting in his own self interest when he did that. But I do want to remember where my weapon came from. This color scheme is an easy way to do that. If you're sure, she didn't sound convinced. I thought you'd want to distance yourself from the tech's history. It's important to remember so I don't fall off the slippery slope, she explained. I'm powerful. I don't want to be dangerous. Her dad patted her head. It's good that you're aware of it. When's your call? She checked her phone. In 10 minutes. Mom, where's your laptop? I'll get it. She pushed past Sana's dad, clearly unhappy. Sana watched her go with mixed feelings. I wish she was okay with this. She loves you. This is hard on her. It's not exactly easy for me, either, but I have a different perspective than she does. You know, you two are a lot alike. It's not like Mom and I are working off the same priority list as each other. He shook his head. The lives of loved ones above all else. Sound familiar? It's not the same thing. Maybe not now, but starting out, you weren't weighing the lives of anyone but her when you made your decision. Don't pretend you were. She bit her tongue because he was right. I'm doing the right thing. I have to believe that. The reasons don't matter. They've changed once, and they'll change again. So long as they stay good ones. He cupped her face as best he could and bent to kiss her on the forehead. We'll always love you, no matter what you do or why. Never forget that. She wrapped her arms around his chest in a quick hug. I love you too. The moment broke when her mom came in and dropped her laptop in Sana's arms. Are you ready for this? You can always step back, you know. I know. I'm ready. This is important. Just be ready to back me up if things go sour. They probably won't, but I'll leave my phone on speaker so you can listen in. It was the best plan they'd come up with to keep everyone fully informed. This way, Sana wouldn't forget to share an important detail, and her parents could text her if she started to fall into a legal trap she'd be too inexperienced to evade. Privately, Sana thought it would also ensure the programmer could listen in. Not that she could stop him if he wanted to eavesdrop, but this meant she'd be conscious of unseen ears. Her parents left, and she set up the phone, computer, and her notebooks. She sat cross-legged on the ground. Her backdrop was the same one she'd used in her debut video, and she propped her phone up with a pillow so the screen was facing her. She was tempted to shoot off an email to the programmer, but her phone screen lit up with a text before she could. There was no number and no name attached to the 5 messages. The lack of identifiers was as good as a name tag.
I am here to help. Ask me whatever you need, and I will provide an answer. I will also provide supplementary information should it prove useful. For example, 22 supers have been killed as a result of Cape-facilitated accidents since 1945. 63 have been injured in the same manner.
It was so in character for the virtual stranger she wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry. Are you going to keep popping up like a guide in a video game?
Most likely for now. Come find me.
Was that his catchphrase? It wasn't a very good one. Later.
Of course. You're busy right now.
She chuckled, amused despite herself. You're doing.
Yes, and you're going to be late. Click the link. Start the call.
Come find you. I will. I promise. The programmer's sketchiness aside, she meant it.